Hey, ladies and gents, and welcome to the second episode of the Controlled Interest Gamecast. Thank you guys for listening and tuning into the first episode. We really appreciate all the support. And so we're going to be getting into it here. I'm here with Jordan.
Hashtag smash the dunst.
And Dominic.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And so before we get into the news, guys, we want to have a little discussion about what we're playing. So, Jordan, what have you been playing as of lately this last week?
So, I actually haven't played video games in probably about 3 or 4 days. But before that I was playing Far Cry Primal. And I think it's safe to say I'm not quite at the 10-hour mark with that one. But I think it's a pretty boring game.
Really?
And it's not just because of the fact that you don't have guns, but that is yeah, it's cool to have animal companions and crap like that, but really, I mean, in a Far Cry game, you need some guns, I think is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, it has a Far Cry name, but it doesn't feel like a Far Cry game.
In a way, yes. I mean, it feels like a Far Cry game because it's literally the map copied over from Far Cry 4.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's like redefining the name Reskin. But it's not just like, oh, I have to read subtitles, or oh, I only have these animal companions. It's kind of a combination of everything, and it ends up feeling like just a completely different game that should have been called Primal something or whatever, you know? And so it's kind of boring. I'll keep playing it just because I always like having like a big open world game that I can just go and screw around in while I'm watching podcasts or whatever.
Just to be doing stuff.
Exactly, but I don't think I'm gonna I'm not in love with it. So it kind of like, you know, sometimes you play games and they kind of suck and you're just like, screw video games right now, you know. So
just take a chill pill.
I think I'll be playing Mass Effect. I've already started it, but I'm really hoping to yes, Mass Effect 1. I had started it way back when on 360, but I'm trying to get through the trilogy before
Have you ever played
Andromeda comes out. Like I said, I had started it on 360, but maybe got like 10-ish hours in.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I need to go through the trilogy, and I'm hoping to like really dig into the first one.
I kind of actually envy you of being able to play that game for the first time, because that's obviously my favorite franchise, so that's
People
cool.
are always talking about like video games we wish we could play again for the first time, and they always say Mass Effect. I'm like, I'm glad I have that, you know?
Right. So for me, I've been playing Smite, as always. I love that game. MOBAs are for nerds, so I guess I'm a nerd by that definition. I play that game all the damn time. It's addicting, and I have a problem, and I need to go to rehab. But other than that, I finished Life is Strange. Great experience. Probably one of the best, like, simplistic stories I've played, where it's not like there's not a lot of gameplay there, but it's just a great story, right? Kind of in the vein of Gone Home, but it has a lot more gameplay, I think, than Gone Home. I finished that, great, and then I've actually been playing Pokemon Yellow, so Nintendo got me in buying the same damn game again with nothing new except for being able to access the Pokebank. And I'm actually, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but early on in Pokemon, you can get a Mew, like legitimately. You have to have an Abra, and you have to like hit this one trainer, teleport, come back, run up, hit this other trainer, and I'm having the toughest time because I don't have a Jigglypuff that's fast enough to use Sing before an Abra uses Teleport, so I've just been in this loop of trying to catch a Jigglypuff that's fast enough so it can hit before an Abra, so I can get the Abra, so I can do the glitch. So I've been stuck in this little loop for a little bit, but it's really nostalgic. It's really cool. It's just kind of like feeding my addiction of Pokemon until Sun and Moon come out. But I'm having a blast with that.
You said it's like beginning of the game, right?
Yeah, it's like second city, Cerulean City, I believe, where you fight Misty.
Yeah, so I think the way I would always get Abras back then is since they're still really low level, I would just kind of like walk in that area of grass that they always show up in, and they are kind of like rare, but you just keep throwing a Pokeball the first time, like you don't even try to attack them or anything, and then eventually you'll get lucky and catch one.
I might just try that, because at this point it's getting frustrating, you know?
It works, dude.
Yeah. Dom?
Yeah, so I've actually recently taken a break from Fallout 4 and jumping a little bit outside my comfort zone and dove right into Fire Emblem Fates. Which it's been fun, but we're gonna get into that later. I do want to say, so me and my wife went and saw a movie last night. I don't know if you guys are into horror movies. We went and saw The Witch.
I need to
read
watch that. I heard it's supposed to be really good. Yeah.
So
It's awesome.
I read a couple reviews and oh, it's great, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's much different. It doesn't follow the same the same garbage that every other scary
the
movie
tropes?
throws at you.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it virtually has no jump scares.
Right.
And it does a lot with the music is really well done and the atmosphere it creates is super creepy, but I don't know, it's just the ending wasn't satisfying for me, and I don't know, it wasn't quite creepy enough consistently. There was one part in particular where I was like, oh man, that's whoa. I don't want to say too much, but ultimately, yeah, I was kind of disappointed. I thought it would be much better, but yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was a little different, but yeah.
I think it has. You haven't seen it, right, Jared?
The Witch, no. It's on my list of things to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, so I went and saw that after I saw Deadpool the other day, which was just like the best day ever. Which is an awesome movie. I think, like, at first I wasn't in love with it, basically because of what you were saying, Jared, of how really it shouldn't have been marketed as a horror movie, because it really kind of isn't. And I think
Definitely.
that hurts it when you're, like, watching it, But if you can, like, kind of put that expectation aside and just like it for, like, a kind of more like a psychological thriller, I think it really works as a psych thriller, because it does have some parts that drag and, like, some slower areas that are honestly boring straight up, but, like, the atmosphere that you talked about, the creepiness that, like,
Yeah.
it gets under your skin, and it, like, makes your skin crawl in a way that you don't expect movies to do usually, and it's like that part, I thought they just, like, they freaking nailed that. So
And
it's not my favorite movie of all time, and it's not my favorite movie of this year so far. I think Deadpool's better, but I think I'll definitely come back to it, because it's a very interesting movie. It's a very, like, it sticks with you, kind of the emotions that it brings up,
Yeah.
So the acting from one of the younger boy in the movie, I think they called him Caleb. I can't remember exactly. It was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, all the kids in general, like, I mean, the kid had to be like 7 years old, like, unreal performance from a 7-year-old. And I don't want to say too much what goes on, but he did a great job. I don't know his name.
I totally agree. I think the acting was another, like, huge highlight. The acting was, like, out of this world.
And they had to use, like, those accents, like, why are they mad? And,
Yeah, the Middle English type crap.
Yeah.
So basically, heard it here. If you look at it as a thriller, you definitely want to go see, The Witch. Right? Is
Sure.
it The Witch? That,
Sure.
right? Okay, so we're going to shift over to news now. Once you guys heard what we were playing, obviously Dom has some stuff to say about what he's been playing a little bit later in the episode for his topic. So the first story here is actually a really sad story. It comes from... how did you say to pronounce her name again, Jordan?
So I'm no expert in Chinese, but to me this looks like Ziqing Wan.
So Mrs. Wan, I'll go with because I want to play it safe. She wrote over on twinfinite.net about his name is Michael Forgey. He was the producer of Gears of War. He was the executive producer of Shadow of Mordor, the Middle Earth game. He worked on Fable. He worked on Perfect Dark Zero. This dude had a track record. Unfortunately, he passed away on March 3rd due to cancer. He was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer in May of 2015, and he had been battling it this whole time. So we just give our condolences here. He was a really good part of the industry. He worked on some phenomenal games. Gears is a great game that redefined third-person shooters, cover-based shooters. Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor was a game of the year to a lot of people because of the Nemesis system? Was that the name of it? Yeah. And Fable too. Like, he worked on a lot of things that really influenced the gaming industry, so our condolences go out to him. On a different note, some user at Reddit actually found a mural that they were painting, and it ended up being for Hearthstone. And it's the new expansion that's coming out. It's called Whispers of the Old Gods. So it sounds very menacing, sounds very Blizzard.
Whispers of the Old Gods.
Yeah, the old and the new. So it's just an image showing that it's going to be called Whispers of the Old Gods. It's going to be coming out. People are going to love it and buy it because Hearthstone can do no wrong.
That sounds way more like a Bloodborne expansion.
Right? It sounds super menacing. It's like,
Well, it sounds like a Dark Souls expansion.
Yeah. So the next story is actually really surprising. So earlier this week, Lionhead Studios was closed down by Microsoft, and so was the studio behind Max Curse of the Brotherhood. And Sony has come out and said that whatever employees won't find jobs with Microsoft, they're actually holding a job fair in Guildford, UK, for anybody that was affected by these layoffs, and they're hoping that people can come in and land jobs with Sony over any of their studios in Europe. So props to Sony on coming in and helping out these guys who were just casualties of the industry and the way things go. And I don't really see this personally as a move of, Sony's trying to take these people to one-up Microsoft. I really think it's the industry coming together to make sure these guys, they have families, they have things that they need to get paid, and it sucks to be laid off, right? Like,
I mean, I'm sure it's like they're going to be happy with the good publicity that it brings them, but they're really trying to help people out here. I mean, like, that was a big AAA game that just kind of got... it was like taken out in the backyard and shot like a dog almost. Like,
right?
It's really sad how that game was like... It looked so promising, and, back when they showed it at E3 like 2 years ago, it was looking... not finished, but it looked great. Like, it looked like an interesting game. Maybe not everybody would love it, but something I may even play down the road,
Yeah, so this story actually comes from Mike Futter over at Game Informer, and what he wrote specifically was, the Lionhead closure wasn't the only change Microsoft made on Monday. The publisher announced it was shuttering Press Play, the developer I was talking about earlier, I just couldn't remember their name, who was buying Curse of the Brotherhood, and then their in-progress project, Knoxville, which was the one where they put up 3 different ideas and they let people vote on which one they felt they wanted to play the most.
So much for that.
Right. They should have voted for them to stay in business, Hopefully those guys, they're probably grouped into the people who, are trying to find jobs or will be retained by Microsoft. But yeah, just, these kind of things happen. The game probably wasn't what Microsoft wanted, and, with Quantum Break around the corner, they want to have these quality exclusives out there. They don't want to have another what the heck? What's the name of the PlayStation exclusive that came out last year that was not that great? No, not Knack. The the one that had like a 4-hour story. What was it?
The Order, 1886.
The Order, yeah. Which, I mean, that game was beautiful, but it wasn't really. There's arguments of whether or not it was a fully done game, or if it was even something worth that price point. So I think Microsoft's just trying to avoid that kind of thing, but it sucks because people lost their jobs, and that's never a good thing. Next story comes from Kotaku. Luke Plunkett writes, Bill Gates, I will look into a new Age of Empires. So he was doing an AMA on Reddit, as one does when you're Bill Gates and you have nothing but power and time. And I guess he was answering questions, and somebody wrote, Mr. Gates, can we please have another Age of Empires? Not sure if this is your department, but I figured I'd ask since you were here. Thanks. And I guess some time had passed, and he hadn't answered it. So the guy edited his comment. He said, edit, Bill, please, I know you can see this. So Gates actually responded, and he said, I will look into this. How many empires do you need? Not knowing probably what the hell the dude was talking about. But, Luke writes, well, Bill, just one would be a good start. I know there have been re-releases and expansions of Age of Empires, but the world could really do with the proper new Age of Empires. I personally am not really into RTSs, but I know that this is a really big franchise that a lot of people are diehard fans and want one back. So maybe just getting this out there, this is a bit of publicity in the sense of, I doubt Bill Gates will tell somebody to start making it, but it lets people know that people want this, right?
Yeah, I think, people say that nothing ever dies at this point, like media franchise. And, it's totally true, but I don't think it should be. Like, just because you can bring back Age of Empires, do we necessarily need that? Like, there's Total War and Warhammer, all these
even
these
Halo
games,
Wars
like,
coming out. Halo Wars 2, I think, is going to be launching this year. So
yeah, I think honestly, if Age of Empires was that great, I think it would have survived. I think there's been that niche through line of strategy games forever, so I don't think it would have gone away if that were the case. XCOM.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that some things should just be left the way they are. And here's the thing: is like, if they do come out with the new game, right, of Age of Empires, and it isn't what people want, then they're gonna complain. Why did you do this to my franchise? So it's kind of like a lose-lose, or a
Right.
win-win depending on what happens. But
I will say that's one of the only strategy games I've ever played, and I did enjoy some of those old games on PC back when I was a youngin. So
a youngin.
I wouldn't be like ticked if they came back with one, because I'm sure like there's never a strategy game that really even like catches my eye, so I'm not even worried about it.
People just want them PC exclusives. No,
Yep, exactly.
So this story is actually, I would consider, one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest story for today. And CD Projekt Red, our guys over there who make the densest of games, they stated that they have a new game this year, and more than 20 million copies of The Witcher games have been sold. This comes also from Mike Futter at Game Informer, and he writes, CD Projekt Red has announced its strategic plans for the coming 5 years, giving us an idea of where the studio is heading. In 2011, CD Projekt Red expected that its games would have sold 10 million copies. To date, the trilogy sold twice that. Then he goes on to say that Cyberpunk 2077, which will arrive no earlier than 2017, is going to be 5 times the size of Witcher, which is kind of crazy to me. But this game that's going to be coming out this year, it says, the developer says, a new type of video game format previously unexplored by the studio. With mobile games already under its belt, we're left to wonder where this venture will take them. Maybe a VR game? That might be too crazy to think of, but what do you guys think this game's going to be this year? It's pretty interesting. If
Gwent.
it's something they haven't touched, like, what can that be?
I gotta agree with Dominic. I think that it's got to be Gwent. I mean,
iOS and Android.
yeah, exactly. They're obviously working on Cyberpunk 2077. If it's going to be 5 times bigger than The Witcher, then they're going to have to work on it until 2025. It's going to be 2077 before the game comes out.
So, do you think they'll have a presence at E3 where they kind of do the Bethesda thing where they're like...
No. That's what I'm saying is like they have a big AAA game that they're working on, big RPG. This is for them to just like bring out a game this year. I'm like 95% sure it's Gwent.
Well, no, what I was going to say is, so you know how Bethesda announced Fallout 4 and then they're like, here's this mobile game you can download now. What if they did that?
Yeah.
Like, what if they talked about Cyberpunk 2077 and they're like, we have something to hold you over until then. All of you Witcher fans, download Gwent right now on iOS and Android,
For free.
If that happened, I would just be so happy, man.
Right? It's such an interesting thing, like, that a card game in a video game, a game in a game is so popular that people want a tangible, well, I guess not tangible, it's on your phone still, but you can play it on its own without having to be in Witcher, so...
So I mean, they were a smaller studio, right? I mean,
well, yeah, but with the recent success, they've probably
brought in a ton of cash from Witcher 3. So yeah, I'd imagine they're looking to, expand exponentially. But yeah, to have something this quick, can't imagine it's anything big.
Well, also, there's a rumor going around that they've stated that they want to be one of the big 3. Like, they want to be up there, be known with like the Bethesdas and stuff like that. So, their craftsmanship is almost unmatched. They, in my opinion, I think they make great games, and I think they're one of the most underappreciated studios out there. So
I totally agree. Honestly, I was telling you guys that I played like over 200 hours of The Witcher and did every single thing, but I didn't touch Gwent, and it's because the night that it came out, they released it early for digital. And I started playing, and my game kept crashing because there's like, part of like the tutorial area of the game is you playing your first Gwent game.
Yeah.
And every time this guy would try to give me a card at the end of the Gwent game, and it would crash the game. So I kind of just had to like avoid that and get around it. And so then I didn't get the trophy for that Gwent card, and so I couldn't get the trophy for getting all the Gwent cards, which meant that I couldn't get the platinum unless I like.
Well, that sucks.
I basically have to get the platinum on my New Game Plus, which is okay. I'll play The Witcher another time, but because of that, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna leave Gwent for New Game Plus when I'm kind of just like not. I wasn't rushing through The Witcher, but I was like
making sure you get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to like play the game and kind of like move on. So I was like, I'll play Gwent some other time. So I'm excited. If it is just Gwent by itself, that would be perfect because you don't have to go through the whole like loading up your character, loading up the game, and being on your PS4, you can play it anywhere. I think they should have done this, last summer when
they should have launched with the game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, congrats to CD Projekt Red for getting ready to have a lot more money in the coming years. Mm-hmm. The last story here comes from Kotaku. It's from Brian Ashcraft, and he writes a brief update on Zelda Wii U. So, E.G. Anuma, I believe is how you pronounce it, was asked how Zelda Wii U's development is going, and he basically replied, busy. And continuing with that, he said, when we did Skyward Sword for the Wii, at the end of stages of development, I was in charge of the characters, dialogue, and the in-game text. And now as well, it's like it was then. I had to work on text today too, he said with a laugh. But the game has really taken shape and things have gotten easier. That means things are progressing well. According to Anuma, the keyword this time is something new. Ocarina of Time was a huge leap for the Zelda series, and since then, Anuma explained, I think the base of our secret sauce has always been Ocarina of Time, but this time, the change in flavor will be like going from Japanese food to Western-style food. So, Western-style RPG. Perhaps players will be surprised. Please look forward to it, because I think we'll be able to make it something new, like Ocarina of Time was. So, obviously there's tons of fans with Ocarina of Time, and I think this gets a lot of people excited. I believe you were saying, right, Dom, you read this article and it really got your blood flowing for this new Zelda game?
Absolutely pumped, yes.
It's, it's strange that he worded it like that. Jordan, we were talking about this earlier. How he said from Japanese-style food to Western-style food. He could have just come out and said it, Japanese-style RPG to Western-style RPG. Like, he could have just said it, but he said it without saying it, which is weird.
Yeah. Well, I think, like Dom, I'm excited to see that. I think that obviously the Zelda franchise needs something fresh and new.
Yeah.
Twilight Princess, people had their stuff about that game, and obviously Skyward Sword wasn't received nearly as well as I'm sure they wanted it to be. And it's kind of like Final Fantasy, right now Final Fantasy is like kind of hanging in the balance. Like, is it still a big franchise? Do people still care about this? And people will always care about Zelda, but they need to be careful about, like, the next Zelda that comes out needs to be an awesome game, is essentially what I'm saying,
Yeah. So my topic is actually going to be going into that. So before we head into that and start talking about, Western RPGs and what this means for Zelda, thank you guys for listening to the news portion of it. We're going to be heading into the topics now, so catch you guys on the other side. So my topic, guys, is with, the story coming out that Zelda is going to be more of a Western-style game as opposed to, a Japanese-style game. Does this mean that a lot of these developers feel as if they need to, go with the tide of Western-style RPGs, right? These open-world games where it's what we're accustomed to, what the American audience is accustomed to. Do you think that these developers feel as if they need to, kind of play in our ballpark so that way they sell more copies? Do you think that this type of game resonates with gamers now the best?
I mean, yeah, I'd certainly think so. Look at the success of Fallout the last couple of years.
Dragon Age,
Elder Scrolls, Mass Effect, and even like action games like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry. They all have like that same kind of open world, right? Like, yeah, that's clearly the trend here. And I don't know if I'm kind of skeptical of this. I mean, I don't know if this is necessarily what Zelda needs to straight up copy some of that. I mean, it could be good, but at the same time too, it's understandable where they want to inject something new into their same old formula like he mentioned in the quote, that their secret sauce has kind of been the same. But then looking back, the previous Zelda game before Ocarina of Time was A Link to the Past, correct? I think.
Yeah.
Which was obviously an enormous jump, like both technically and I mean obviously moving to the N64. But think about what would be a modern like comparison of jumping from A Link to the Past to Ocarina of Time. Like, what would that mean today?
Yeah, well, the weird thing too with going with this is I think the reason they feel as if they need to go more Western is because they're really just releasing HD remakes at this point, right? The last like good new Zelda game to come out was A Link Between Worlds. That Triforce Heroes a lot of people hated. It was a gimmick. It was a Nintendo game.
Didn't even go near it.
Yeah, it wasn't worth going near. I played A Link Between Worlds, and to me, honestly, it's like a nostalgia trip at this point in a bad way, personally. I think Zelda does what Pokemon does, but it doesn't grasp you the same way. So like when I buy a Pokemon game, I expect the same kind of thing, right? You get your Pokemon, somebody's trying to do something with Pokemon, you get your 8 badges, you defeat the Elite Four, and then there's New Game Plus, right? With Zelda, it seems like it's the same formula, but it's not like welcoming. Like I don't feel like doing it over and over again. And I think maybe having like an open world game where it feels more like, you know, a cartoon Skyrim, it would benefit it, and it would get a lot of new people into Zelda who aren't, you know, medicated and drugged off of the nostalgia of Zelda to keep running with the franchise, you know?
So you think we're going to see a Zelda where, I mean, obviously, I think we're still going to have Link. Obviously, we're going to have like character customization to any extent. But do you think we're going to see Link leveling up his one-handed sword ability, or, you know, having any sort of leveling like that, which has never been in a Zelda game?
That's the biggest thing for me. Jared, you mentioned a cartoonish Skyrim, and I think that's what everybody wants from Zelda.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. Even
hardcore Zelda fans, people that have been playing it for 20 years, because like you said, with Pokemon, it's like, it's the same every time, but it's a good kind of familiar where you can just, it's like a nice soft couch that you're used to. You can just sit down and relax and you don't have to worry about it. And with Zelda, it's the same every time, but they change a bunch of stuff too. So you have to like relearn all this other stuff, but then you kind of like settle into the groove.
It's the same game
like,
you've played. Yeah, it's
right.
like, yeah.
So it's almost like you just have to, kind of like Twilight Princess, you have to have this super long tutorial, and then it's like, all right, now you remember the rest of the stuff, just get back to it. And it's like, oh my gosh. This, if you guys want this to be, you know, same thing with any of Nintendo's stuff at this point. If you guys want to last into the 21st century with the rest of video games as a whole, then you need to, like, get on the ball. Like, act like it's... quit acting like you're just making HD NES games, you know?
So in the...
So they need that cartoon Skyrim.
Yeah, I think, so for those of you who have seen the Ghostbusters reaction that Kind of Funny did with Max Landis, he said something that really resonated with me, where movies are trying to be the same but different.
Yep.
And I think that completely applies to Zelda in the sense of, like, they're trying to be the same thing, but it's different. But it's not the different you want, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's different, but, like...
But it's also familiar.
Enough. Yeah, it's not different enough, not new enough, and... the art style of this game looks different and new enough, but exactly what Dom was saying. Are you going to be able to upgrade your sword? Are you going to be able to, you know, like, get cooler gear for your horse and stuff like that? Or is it just going to be, you got another heart container. Congratulations. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I think they'll
like
definitely have some callbacks to that stuff, but they need to innovate, because I think at this point it's like a lot of Nintendo things, it's running on nostalgia, right?
Exactly.
And even going back to the Pokemon thing for the argument, the new Sun and Moon from the trailers people are seeing, it looks like this could be a really different type of Pokemon game. I mean, it's not that hard to be different when everything's pretty much been the same. But I think with new leadership and everything, and not even just because of the new leadership, I think they're already in this way of, they want to become a new Nintendo because they know that old Nintendo, it doesn't resonate with people anymore, you know?
Right.
It's like all these people who love them have grown up, and it's like, well, those things are cool, but I want stuff that I like now, you know?
Yeah, people change, and especially when they're growing up. So, you know, like I said, they don't want HD NES games. They want something new, and Nintendo's been trying to be the same thing for 20, 25 years now, and that's not what video games in 2016 are. You know, video games are constantly evolving, and as long as they're trying to be that old Nintendo, they're just going to be stagnant. And if another stagnant Zelda game comes out, I honestly believe it could ruin the franchise, because they're certainly not helping it with things like Triforce Heroes.
Yeah, well, the thing is I have never really, in the last 2 generations of Wii and Wii U, felt that there was a game that I needed to buy a Wii for. And maybe that's just me and the type of gamer I am, but I do like Nintendo. Like, I buy every Pokemon game that comes out. I bought Smash on the 3DS. Like, I do support Nintendo for the games I want to play, but they don't have a console experience, and I'm like, that warrants me buying another console, you know? I currently don't own a PS4, but I want to own one, because I want to play through Last of Us Remastered, and I want to play through Horizon Zero Dawn.
Infamous Second Son.
Those games have always been kind of like, I don't know if I necessarily like them, but like the PlayStation does have experiences that I want to buy it, right, to have one.
Right,
and
they're enticing.
Yeah, haven't had that with Nintendo, and like maybe that's just me, but I do love their franchises. Not because I don't love their franchises. I will tell you this, and this will never happen. If they go and announce X going to give it to you, right, and they say that there's going to be an RPG game on RPG Pokemon game on the console at release, no matter if that game ends up being shitty or not, I'm buying an NX, because at least it may be a shitty game, but they're trying to do something people want, right? And if Zelda Wii U or Wii U / NX is a Skyrim cartoon, that will make me possibly want to buy an NX. It depends on what else the lineup is, but it'll definitely put me 80-20 as a, for buying it. Like, it's something that would entice me if it's that well done.
I will say, I really hope they don't stray away from being the kings of local co-op, like Sony and Microsoft have.
Actually, no, you can't say that. That's totally, the one because thing
they have.
Even though Halo didn't have couch co-op, Gears of War is. That might not have been a Microsoft problem. That was actually a 343 problem, because they figured they'd rather have the game always run at 60 frames than couch co-op. I don't give a damn if a game's running at 60 frames. The fact that I have to have 2 copies of the game to play with my friend at my house is dumb.
Yeah, in general, I mean, look at PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah,
look at PS4 and Xbox One. I mean, what good local couch co-op games are there available? I mean, real obviously sports games, maybe a couple of racing games, Diablo, but I mean, other than that, it's limited, right? I mean, playing Mario Couch.
That's the new title coming out.
Yeah, right. Mario Kart with a couple friends, or Smash Bros, or New Super Mario World, any of that stuff is just, there's nothing similar on PS4 and Xbox One.
But what's the point of being king of couch co-op when you don't have any friends who actually own the console?
They come over.
True. Very true. And that could be what the NX does. Is I heard a crazy thing on IGN News a while back where it was like, they were hoping to sell like 250 million units within the first year or something.
That's insane.
Which is like, PS4's right around 50 million, I guess, right now.
They're hitting that dev math or something.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to sell 250 million?
Yeah. And I rewatched the IGN News thing, and they said that, and IGN wasn't lying about it. So, my point is, that's like a ubiquitous device, not even gaming system or not even Nintendo console. That's a ubiquitous device at that point. That's like iPhone territory.
Yeah.
So
you're gonna do my grocery shopping for me or what?
Yeah, exactly. So if that's for real and they're really wanting this to be so ubiquitous, then maybe the king of co-op is like what they're gonna be all about. And then co-op when you're sitting on the train with your detachable device that's like kind of like the 3DS or whatever,
Yeah, I'm Nintendo never delivers on power though, and that's the problem to me. Is like they always do this gimmicky stuff where it's like it's almost there. Like this is good, but it could be better, And
right.
I just don't want a thing where like, oh yeah, we have this device that you can take with you, and you can. It's kind of like Vita in the sense of like cross play, cross buy, right? Where it works when you're playing it mobily. But I don't want it to be I'm playing Witcher 3 when I'm at home, but when I take it on the go, it looks like Duck Hunt. Like I don't want I don't want the graphical difference of the experiences to be that. Obviously, I can't expect a whole lot because it's a mobile device, but even phones aren't that far off from having decent graphics. So it's like I don't want that kind of experience, because at that point, it feels like you're playing 2 different games. So.
Well, it would have to stream, right? It would have to be a remote play kind of situation for that to even be kind of functional.
Yeah. I don't know.
You would definitely have to link back to your console. Otherwise, we're looking at a Borderlands 2 Vita situation, and we don't want that.
Yeah, I definitely think that Nintendo realizes that they need to appeal to Western gamers, and I think they're going to be figuring that kind of stuff out. I'm interested to see where they take the Metroid series, because I really think they can do something really unique with that if they have a good dev team. But
yes.
We'll definitely see. So. Those were our impressions of, Western-style RPGs flooding the Japanese developers' subconscious, really. But we're going to get into the second topic here. Take it away, Dom.
Yeah, so the second topic here is going to be all about Fire Emblem Fates. So, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I'm jumping way out of my comfort zone, starting to play this game. I've never played any strategy games in the same vein as Fire Emblem. Jordan, what did you call the technical term of the genre that Fire Emblem would be? An SJRPG or?
Technically, yeah, it is a JRPG, but it's not like a straightforward JRPG like, Final Fantasy. So,
Right, right.
yeah, it's a strategy Japanese role-playing game, I guess.
So yeah, again, this is like way out of my comfort zone, but after picking up a 3DS about a year ago, I mean, when you ask people for suggestions, well, what games are good on this? It's like always Fire Emblem
Wait, you
is in
didn't
the
buy a
top
Vita? Jordan's gonna be mad.
3. Yeah. But yeah, so far, like I adore this game. It's addicting in the weirdest kind of way. So I mean, the gameplay is I didn't know what to expect. So essentially, like in between each of the battles that you go through, and each battle is kind of, what you picture. You're moving your guys around the battlefield, like chess pieces, basically. Um, so in between each battle, I mean, you're basically just getting monologue, like just story, just dialogue getting thrown at you. So there's not any kind of like overworld or anything of like in that nature. You're just kind of going from battle to battle. In each battle, so I started with Birthrights, which is the easier of the two. Conquest is the harder one, and then Revelations apparently is a whole third campaign, which is kind of a mixture of the two apparently.
Okay.
And then so since I'm such a beginner, I obviously went with Birthright and went on the normal difficulty, but also set it so when your characters die, I get them back at the next round.
Okay. Yeah.
Because let me tell you, if you played with permadeath on,
Yeah.
I would be done. Like I would have to start over. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't
heard
blame
it
you. You've
sucks,
never
yeah.
played this style of game. If you were like,
Right.
I play every Fire Emblem's game. I'm a diehard fan. I'd be like, really? And you're going baby's first route. But the fact
Right.
that you haven't never played them, it's like you just don't want to get your teeth pounded in right away. You're not playing Fire Emblem Dark Souls, so it's like,
Yeah, exactly. And because it's so dependent on like forward thinking, it really is like chess. Like you gotta not just think about what you're going to do next, but what the AI is going to do next as a result of. There's a lot of different factors that it really stretches your brain a little bit. Even in Birthright on one of the easier modes. So it's fun and it's also rewarding when it pays off. But yeah, definitely. If you're just starting out, don't play with permadeath. Definitely go with Birthright. And not Conquest. But yeah, so far I'm loving it. I'm in, like I'm fully in. I'm addicted. And I'm gonna play through the campaign, and I'll probably get Conquest afterward, and maybe I'll move up and turn permadeath on at that point. But we'll see.
Yeah, don't count your chickens. For me, the last Fire Emblem's game I played was the one on Game Boy Advance, which I don't even remember which one that was. It was a long time ago. But have you heard of Massive Chalice, Jordan?
I have.
What about you, Dom?
It sounds familiar, but
So
not.
Massive Chalice is technically like Fire Emblem in the sense of like it is a chess game in motion, right? Very hard. But it takes like you pick these families and then you can customize the family names and then you play throughout the game and you have to make sure your territories don't get taken over. And they have kids and then they grow old. So if they die, their kids take over. And it's kind of like you're managing these people and you're also managing fights. So I'd really be interested to see what your take was on Massive Chalice because it does do things that Fire Emblem does right. It's a really solid game. But it's not super story driven. But the strategy point is there. Like I really enjoy that game because it is like a chess game, right? So I'd just be interested. It was free on Xbox, Games with Gold. I don't know if it came to PS Plus or not as far as
It
that.
didn't.
It did?
Just Games with Gold, yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool game. It's in that kind of Fire Emblem vein, and yeah, it's an interesting experience. But I haven't played a Fire Emblem game in a very long time. But the reviews I heard of these were that they were what people wanted, and they delivered on that. So that's really good to hear.
So yeah, I mean, when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to pick it up, I mean, looking at reviews, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? This like the worst. Like, I mean, obviously the 3DS I think is like a super low resolution screen and
The vast library.
and it just kind of looks like the gameplay. It just looks. I'm like, what? Someone being an outsider, I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Like, but when you get into it, the story is good enough. It's engaging enough to pull you in. But yeah, I really am enjoying it. This is coming from someone who has had zero knowledge of the series or even the genre beforehand. So if you're hesitant and you want a 3DS, you should almost definitely pick up Fire Emblem.
Yeah, so it's like for if somebody's interested in those games, it will definitely be a hit. Since you weren't into those games, then it was a hit, you know. So
Right.
yeah,
And they did a good job of making sure it caters to different skill levels basically.
well, it seems too like it seems like it's changed from the old Fire Emblems, where it is a little bit more welcoming to people who haven't played those type of games.
Yeah, and that may be the case. I've never played any of the old ones, but and I'm sure that's the thing though. Even if like series veterans are wanting something more challenging and more engaging, they can't really complain. I mean, you can always just rank turn up the difficulty and
Game of Thrones mode, yeah.
exactly. So again, it kind of welcomes beginners, but then also satisfies veterans, I guess.
Jordan, what's your experience with Fire Emblem?
I have never played a Fire Emblem game, so zero.
Zero.
Yeah, but it definitely interests me. It's funny to me the fact that they basically just released 3 games.
Yeah.
Then they should have just said that they were doing that, kind of like with the Zelda being a Western RPG thing. It's like, you're just releasing 3 games, we get it. But it doesn't take away any of my interest. I think it's really cool that, like, I'm totally down with the fact that they released 3 games. I think that's cool. I think that the branching paths that you take are interesting, and the they had some weird censorship issues with like petting your spouses and all that, but I still think that it's interesting, the relationships that you build and have kids and all that, which was part of Massive Chalice as well. So I definitely think it's got something to it, and people are saying it's even better than Fire Emblem Awakening, which was, back when that came out, people were saying that was one of the best Fire Emblem games. So I may try it out if I end up getting a 3DS at some point.
So, Dom, do you think with your experience that you'll definitely look forward to when new Fire Emblem things are announced? Like, since you weren't really in that vein, you didn't care about that franchise, now that you've played this, when you hear, like, at an announcement, like, Fire Emblem something, there's information, will you be, happy that you're hearing about this? Since you're...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my ears are perked now.
Yeah.
Permanently, so
you're following the franchise at this point.
Yeah. That's really cool. It's an interesting take on that, because Fire Emblem seems like a game where, it's very hard to get new people in just because it seems so intimidating. But, if you take that jump, apparently it's going to pay off because it's going to be something you could possibly enjoy and like. So that's really cool to hear.
Especially for something on a portable platform, too.
Yeah, maybe that helps with it, too, though, because you have this time where you can't really be playing a console game. So you're like, well, I have my portable device. I'll play this, see how it is. And it's a different kind of experience. Maybe that lent to you actually enjoying it more. You never know.
Yeah, definitely.
I like having long games portably because it's like, they can be taken in bite sizes, but it's like just kind of like, over 6 months of your life you've been carrying this game with you, and I like that.
Yeah, it's like you can play this between birthday parties or plane flights, or you can sit down and binge it while you sit down. So it's like you have the option. So
yeah, man, I absolutely hope to God that portable gaming stays around and we don't end up with just phones. I mean, I would hope that Sony makes another Vita, and it seems like Nintendo's at least in some form going to continue with portable gaming too, with the NX or whatever they decide to do.
So
Viva la vida.
Hopefully. So talking about old games becoming new games, Jordan, what's your topic for us?
So we're talking about Ratchet and Clank today, and as you mentioned, old games becoming new. Insomniac really hasn't known what to call this, whether it's a reboot or remake, and really it's just both, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's a reboot in the sense that it starts everybody over fresh, and it's a jumping on point for them and the audience to move on with Ratchet and Clank in the future. But it's also a remake in the sense that it is essentially the first Ratchet and Clank game from the PlayStation 2. But it's tweaked and changed, so it kind of seems like an 85% remake. There's stuff that's like totally brand new or totally different, but a lot of it you'll recognize if you played the original Ratchet and Clank on PS2 or PS3. So, with that being said, I guess my question is, as we talk about the topic, you guys can just give me your history with the series and what your excitement level is on this game. Me personally, I'm super excited with it. I love Ratchet Clank, one of my favorite series of all time. For me, growing up, hitting the age of 10 or 12 with my PS2, I felt like I was coming into my own as a gamer, and I was really starting to realize how much I loved video games. And, Jak and Daxter and Sly Cooper and Ratchet and Clank, all those PlayStation 2 exclusive platformers were like just my shit, essentially. So, that being my jam, I'm super excited for Ratchet and Clank. Also, I wanted to mention the fact that I think this game's going to be super successful. One, due to the fact that it has a movie coming out alongside it, which, I think is kind of just its own thing. And people are kind of talking about how the game itself looks like a Pixar movie, so they're obviously going to go hand in hand in that way. And two, the fact that it's only $40, so, a kid goes and sees that movie, which a lot of kids are, and then they're like, oh, I want to play the video game version. Heck, it's only $40. Mom and Dad will probably be down with that. And it's obviously family friendly, so even though it has a lot of sexual innuendos. But, yeah, I think this game could do gangbusters, and I really think it's going to surprise people as kind of a sleeper hit. Because people are kind of dismissing it because of the fact that Insomniac hasn't communicated well what it really is, whether it is reboot, remake, whatever.
I think at this point the franchise has been around so long that they do need something new, right? Because people will see like Ratchet and Clank, some funny pun, and they're like, I don't even know what that is.
Right.
But the fact that they're launching this movie along with, this game, like you said, it's gonna do gangbusters, especially with families. With as many PS4s as there are out there, I think it's gonna sell really well, and I think it's gonna introduce people to a franchise that a lot of people have maybe forgotten or just never cared to get invested to. I think also the fact of people saying this is PlayStation, all of these new PlayStation owners or old PlayStation owners want to basically be known for being PlayStation guys.
Right.
So it's like, this is one for us. We need to make sure to support this because, they did something for us kind of thing. So I've never played the Ratchet and Clank games. I was more of a Jak and Daxter kind of guy.
Yeah.
But the game looks pretty. I want to see the movie.
Yeah,
but
it looks great.
I really think that they should define their messaging, and at this point it is hard between movies and with video games. It's like, what's a reboot? What's a remake? Does it even matter?
No, it doesn't.
That kind of thing. So
it doesn't matter. But, that's a really good point that you just made. I didn't even think about the fact that the PS4 install base is huge, and this is going to be a big exclusive for them, People are looking at Uncharted 4 and just thinking that's like the only thing Sony has this spring, but boy, watch out for Ratchet and Clank, man.
So
I think it's going to surprise a lot of people.
So what do you think has like the greater effect? The it's only $40, I'll pick this up really quick, or the why is it only $40? Which of those two effects do you think will be stronger?
Well,
here?
I think it's the movie. So from a movie point perspective that Jordan was making, I think it helps it because you go and see this movie and you're like, well, I already paid almost $20 for this movie. Oh, but the game is $40, so the $20 I spent on the movie kind of go hand in hand with this. So it's like I'm buying a $60 game.
Sure.
Plus, the fact is, if you're a kid that wants this game, your parents aren't gonna care what price it is. They're like, he wants this game. Oh, cool! It's actually cheaper than I anticipated.
Yeah.
That'll even make it a better chance of that parent buying that game, right?
Yeah.
On the flip end of that, people are like, okay, I have Uncharted or I have this game. I want something else too. Oh, I can pick up a second experience that's completely different.
It's a companion, yeah. It's a companion to the movie, and it's just, if the witness is any indication, gamers themselves and just people who play video games in general, I think, are done with this notion of the $60 price point. I think it's stupid, and it's old news, and I think we're past that at this point.
So
I think this is an attachment game, right? This is like, I think a lot of the sales are going to be people either buying a PS4, buying a new PS4, and they're like, oh, this game's already $40, or people buying a different game, buying this game as well. You figure if there's a game that's on sale for like $20 now that's on the PS4, I don't know what that would be, or even like $40. And then they see a new game that's $40, they're like, oh, I'm getting a used game, and I'm getting a new game. I think this is going to be a huge attachment attachment rate for this game, just because of the price point and what it doesn't hit with the familiarity to old PlayStation fans, it hits with being kid friendly. So Definitely. It's like hitting all avenues, really.
Definitely.
So I think it's gonna do really well. I would be surprised if it didn't. I don't see this game flopping by any means. It could have bad reviews, but I highly doubt that too. If it's anything like the old ones have been, it's probably gonna do fairly.
Yeah, it should be around 7s, 8s, maybe 9s. Or
yeah. I definitely think it'll do well, but
see, I think it. I'm a little bit biased here, maybe, but I think it could hit in the 9s. I really do.
You think so?
Yeah, as far as like average review score, Metacritic or whatever, like the game looks incredible, and if I know anything about Ratchet and Clank, it's that it has really great combat, and there is not enough awesome third-person action-adventure games on the PS4. Like, that's why I love Infamous Second Son so much, is because it's that really awesome video game action where you're just having a blast, Same thing with Sunset Overdrive. Like, we need more of those games, and I think people dig them when they play them. That's a really cool, like, style of video game, I think. And like I said, Ratchet and Clank, the gameplay is like really solid, and there's a reason that this franchise is still around. I mean, Sony wouldn't be making this whole game, building it from the ground up, if they didn't have some confidence,
Yeah. So hopefully Ratchet and Clank is what we all expect it to be. I don't think anybody thinks this game's going to fail, but we'll see how well it does sell. Thank you guys for watching the second episode of the Controlled Interests Gamecast. Since we opened this show, we're talking about what we were playing. Do you guys have any idea of what you're going to be playing in the following week between shows?
Man, between now and next week, I'm probably still Fire Emblem and some Fallout.
So I'm definitely going to be working on Mass Effect, like I talked about. I'm going to be digging more into that because I really like that game, and I had just gotten kind of distracted from it with like PS4 games, since it is kind of an older game. And then I need to get back into Persona 3 FES on... It's a PS2 game, but it's on my PS3. Have you guys played Persona before?
Nope.
No Persona fans. Well,
interests me. Just never got around to it.
Yeah, I started Persona 4 Golden on Vita when I first got my Vita, and then when I found out about Persona 5 and what it looked like and how awesome it seemed, I decided to just stop P4 and go back to P3. So Persona 3, like, I love the Persona games. They're really cool. The dating simulator aspect and like the going to school and being a social kid is
it's like super Japanese, and
exactly.
People love that.
But it is interesting and fun, and like you get into your schedule and your routine and you have fun with it. And then the combat is just like really solid turn-based JRPG. So I'm like 50 hours into it, but they're super long games. They're like 100-hour games or so. So even though I'm 50 hours in, I'm probably like halfway through. So need to hop back into that and finish that up.
For me, I'm probably going to be doing some like achievement cleanup. I have a couple achievements left in Madden 16 that I need to get. I have some stuff in Black Flag that I need to get around to getting. It might just be like a chill week where I listen to podcasts and just go through old games that I want to like clean up my achievement score because I'm crazy like that. I might start up. What's the name of the indie game that came out? Child of Light.
Yeah.
That was free on Xbox a while back, and I downloaded it. I just haven't gotten around to playing it, and it totally seems like my type of game. I just haven't gotten to playing it, so I might play that.
That's
I'm
a
going to
good
be playing
one.
Smite as always because I'm a MOBA nerd. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. For anybody who shared it, liked it, anything like that, it's really awesome. We're trying to get this off the ground, and any like, subscription, anything like that is really appreciated. If you guys want to follow us for all of the biggest updates, or most current updates rather, for us, go to Twitter at CTRLINT, or follow any of our personal accounts. That'll be down in the description below and at the end of this video. Once again, we want to say thank you guys, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Any parting words, Jordan, Dom?
# smash the dunst.
You keep saying that. What does that mean?
Well, we can talk off air about that. I'll give you the full story because it'll last. Yeah, exactly. But all you need to know is Kirsten Dunst, Super Smash Brothers.
Oh,
it's
Tim Geddes.
Exactly.
Alrighty, catch you guys later. Bye, guys.